Hello everyone, this is Harry's movie. In this issue, let's watch a movie called Cast Away. Chuck was a system engineer at FedEx. He cherished time like gold and had strict requirements for himself and his subordinates. To better serve customers, Chuck ran around to squeeze time to the extreme. Although there was little time to go home, he and his fiancée Kelly still loved each other deeply. For Chuck, the future happy life was beckoning to himself. However, accidents always come one step before tomorrow. Before Christmas, Chuck was sent to Malaysia on a business trip by the company. Before leaving, Keller gave Chuck an ancestral pocket watch. It also contained Chuck's favorite photos. Chuck regarded it as a treasure and never forgot to take a look. That night, when the plane was passing over the Pacific, it suddenly rained. The bad weather caused the plane to yaw and lost contact with the headquarters. What made things worse was that the aircraft's cargo warehouse also accidentally caught fire at this time. The captain had no choice but to order an emergency landing. For a while, everyone panicked and became a mess. Under the cover of darkness, the plane plunged straight into the sea. Chuck also rushed into the sea along with the destroyed cabin. When it was in danger, Chuck pulled the life raft away in time to float to the surface. Under the violent storm and rain, the rough waves hit the small life raft. I didn't know how long it took, the rickety life raft suddenly came to the shore. Chuck quickly climbed up and fell asleep. Chuck woke up the next day and found out that this was a deserted island. He picked up several floating expresses and writing help on the beach, waiting for the search and rescue team to arrive. But everything was in vain. From morning to night, no ship passed by on the vast sea. Now, the only thing Chuck could do was to think about how to survive. He found coconuts on the island and temporarily solved the thirst problem. However, Chuck, who had no experience in the wild, couldn't catch fish at all. His feet were worn out by rocks in the water. He tore off his trouser legs and made a pair of simple shoes. He climbed to the highest place again to observe where he was currently. The endless sea scared Chuck. In this desperate situation, if there was no ship, he could only die here. In desperation, Chuck suddenly saw a corpse floating by the sea. He quickly ran down the mountain and found that this person was his friend, Captain. Chuck dragged the captain ashore and got shoes and a flashlight. After that, he buried his friends. On a desert island, the most difficult thing was the night. When night fell, Chuck could only lie down and couldn't do anything. Great emptiness and loneliness were accompanied by fear. Chuck was almost out of breath. He could only turn on the flashlight, again and again, to watch the photos of his fiancée and slowly fell asleep. Chuck started to have diarrhea and weakness from drinking coconut for a long time. A series of demanding problems forced him to find fresh water and cooked food as soon as possible. Finally, Jack found the morning dew, but it was very difficult to eat cooked food. So he spent a few more days muddle-headed and ignorant. One full night, Chuck suddenly saw a ship passing by on the distant sea. He quickly turned on the flashlight to signal for help, but the faint light was as unremarkable as a lonely yellow firefly in the sky. At dawn, the lights on the boat went out. Chuck desperately rowed his life raft in the direction of the ship. However, wave after wave of wind stopped him. The life-saving was also broken through the shallow bottom of the waves. Chuck hurt his leg because of this. He had no choice but to drag the frustrated life raft back to the shore. The strong wind blew and it started to rain. Chuck covered those couriers with a broken life raft. Then he tremblingly walked into the cave and fell asleep. When he woke up again, the weather outside had cleared. At this moment, Chuck realized that his chance of escape was very slim. He cracked open the courier and tried to find tools to make a living. In the bag, Chuck found a volleyball, a pair of ice skates, a skirt. He hesitated when he unpacked the last package. A pair of spring wings painted on the box. He gently touched his wings and put them back carefully. He believed that as long as he lived, there was hope. Chuck uses his ice skates as an axe and uses the gauze on her skirt to fish. But raw food was really hard to swallow. He racked his brains and finally came up with a way to make fire. But even a few days of drills did not yield any results. In the end, he scratched his hands. Chuck was extremely painful on this desperate day. I had never felt this weak and lonely. To resolve loneliness, Chuck painted his facial features on volleyball and named it Will. While chatting with Will, he continued to drill for fire. This time, Chuck finally succeeded. He ignited the hope of life, enjoying the cooked seafood. 4 years had passed in a blink of an eye, and Chuck's predator skills had become more adept. He could even eat the freshly caught raw fish. In these years of loneliness, Will was the only partner with Chuck. Chuck talked with Will, and he always reminded himself not to give up hope. Unconsciously, Will had become Chuck's spiritual support. One day, Chuck found an iron plate by the sea. This provided him with an opportunity to build ships through the waves. Chuck made a raft using the bird's pose. He waited until the wind changed. That was the day he went to sea. This day, Chuck tied Will to the bow. He put on a bag with painted wings and officially started to fight against fate. The sea was still rough, but Chuck was well prepared. He made the iron sheet into a sail and successfully passed the last big wave with the power of the wind. For this adventure, Chuck prepared a lot of coconuts for rainwater. When he was hungry, he jumped into the sea to catch fish. One night not long ago, Chuck was unfortunately hit by a storm. The weak raft couldn't stand the demolition, Soon the windshield sail was blown away. Chuck tried his best to protect the bag, but his raft was already broken. When Chuck woke up, Will had drifted far away. Chuck hurriedly grabbed the rope on the raft and swam in the direction of Will with all his strength. Will drifted further and further, and the rope tied to the raft came to an end. Facing between the raft and Will, Chuck could only choose to return to the raft. He was heartbroken for losing his partner. But he couldn't do anything, so he could only lie on the damaged raft and trusted luck. He didn't know how long it's been drifting, but Chuck, who was desperate, saw life again. The appearance of a freighter saved him. Chuck used all his strength to get his hands back. He was unconscious and called his fiancée's name. He tried his best to go back, but when meeting again, Kelly was already married. Since Chuck's being lost, Kelly had left everything behind to find him. But everyone thought that Chuck was gone. Under the persuasion of people around, Kylie married Chuck's dentist. Their daughter was also 3 years old this year. Although the two were still in love with each other, they could no longer stay together. The most painful thing in the world was this. Later, Chuck put the bag that he had hopped back into the sender's house. He left a message to the owner of the package. "This package saved my life, thank you." At an intersection, a car stopped in front of Chuck. A woman got off the car and asked if Chuck was lost. After the woman left, Chuck saw the pair of wings at the back of the woman's car. He stood at the crossroads and didn't know what to choose. It seemed to be 1,000 times in life, but it suddenly became clear. Finally, he smiled in the direction the woman left. Maybe what was waiting for him was another life. The movie ends here. I don't talk about anything else so much, let me watch 2 episodes first. Don't forget to like and follow me. Thanks for watching, see you next time.